It is your friendly YouTube host. It's Mosley. It is 1 o'clock. It's time. It's time to roll. Boy, Scotty hopefully has fired out our premium Twitter audience. It'll be vast today. We do have Scotty's working remotely today, like I do pretty much every day. Scotty, do we have some breaking news? Can you do the breaking news sounder remotely? Oh, interesting. I'm getting calls from as we speak. Oh, there it is. All right, Scotty, you might have heard the tone in my voice yesterday as I had Ashley on. And I kind of was ramping up and kind of thought we might know something about this Baylor defensive coordinator thing. And then, again, I would always rather be right rather than first and wrong and all that kind of stuff. But this was one that I was tipped off on by a wonderful person and a wonderful source. And then was able to confirm everything yesterday. And then, as you do in this business from time to time, you try for various reasons, you might agree to hold off on something. And all the while knowing that the longer I held off, the more it was like but again, you live and learn, and I've done a million of these things, and it was frustrating this morning because I was sort of pressing someone to, I need to do this, and then as I predicted, Pete Thamel came out with this news. Now, the good news, Scotty, is that having known who it was, that Joe Clanderman was going to be the new defensive coordinator at Baylor, and having known that for the better part of 16 hours, I have a whole legal pad here of notes and things I had prepared on Joe Clanderman, the former Kansas State defensive coordinator who's taken over at Baylor. And I'm also mindful of the fact that, for the most part, folks just want the news. And then they want to talk about it. And then they want to hear your thoughts on it and all that kind of stuff. So, in the whole scheme of life, I'll be okay. But I was very fortunate to have known about Joe Clanderman for a pretty good, quite a few hours before it happened. And it's, again, you live and learn. And, sometimes you give folks some courtesy. And as I'm reminded, and that's okay. That's okay sometimes to do that. And you just hope that that'll put you in good stead moving down the road. And I think it will. But what I did, Scotty, is and hello to everybody. Thank you for coming in as I put my glasses on. Okay, the intellectual Mosley look. All right. And then yesterday, one of my great friends was wondering where my Camp OTX cap on. I think I put my Fox Hot Springs cap on, which some people love, by the way. But Scotty and others have really enjoyed this cap. And somebody was like, why didn't you have your OTX cap on? It's back. It's back today, and always good. And I was representing it today at a breakfast I had in the community. And so the breakfast was only interrupted with me trying to check and see, trying to break this news of Joe Clanderman, Baylor's new defensive coordinator. So, Scotty, what I had done is I'd gone back and I'd looked at all the good, the bad. Scotty, I'm sure you've done the same. I saw Darth Baylor or whatever had a good breakdown of all the, points per, game. Every category. There's some good, there's some bad. Of course, our buddy Scotty, because Drake Toll right now can only be negative about Baylor. And I noticed our old friend Drake immediately posted the score of K-State and Utah, that they got beat 41-48, and that's who Baylor hired. So, yes, this man's been the defensive coordinator there since 2020. He arrived in Kansas State in 2019, but let's hold him to one game in his entire 7-year career there. Let's make sure we do that. So let's see, 6 seasons as DC. I thought Scotty, and I tell you what we'll do at about 1:30. I hope I told him 1:30. The Matt Walters, Scotty, is going to join us, and Matt is the sideline reporter for Kansas State football. And then we'll have Clanderman. We'll have Joe Clanderman on soon on the show. I really would hope very, very soon. I'll be checking my text messages for that. Now, I would tell you, Scotty, that like my research on him, and you've seen this already, but I'll share it with my audience. Like 2022, they won the Big 12 championship. Top 15 scoring defense. That year, number 9, Oklahoma State, they played them, beat them 48-0 in a game. He's been a safeties coach. They've had some great safeties there. He came from North Dakota State with Chris Kleiman. He was, now Colin Klein got several Kansas State coaches together and let them go today. I will remind you that on that list, one of them was not Joe, because Joe was already headed toward Baylor. I don't know if Klein would have tried to retain him or not, but Baylor moved in. They thought they had an opportunity, and they made it happen. And again, this guy was very tied to Kleiman there and came with him. North Dakota State had won 4 national championships, I think, in 5 seasons. Before that, he had played at Minnesota State. He had been a defensive coordinator at Minnesota State. Then he went to North Dakota State, and then he ended up at Kansas State with Kleiman. I would say, if you want the good stuff, now, again, there's going to be some negatives along the way. They were giving up a lot of points this year. I would not try to get on here and spin this as, oh, my gosh, Kansas State, unbelievable defense this year. No. But I'm trying to look at the entire body of work. In 2021, he went to a 3-3-5 alignment. By 2022, they were really good on defense. 2022, 23, and 24. During that time, I think they had a combined 63 takeaways and were one of the tops in the country during that time. And even this season, when they didn't, let's not act like K-State was great this year, but they had the 4th most takeaways in the country on defense. They were 8th in turnover turnover margin. We talked about how, and thank you, Scotty B. Yes, you are correct, sir, as Scotty B joins us right there. You can, all our Twitter people, we got a lot of Baylor people wanting to join us on Twitter. And so, Scotty, I was a little bummed, mad at myself and others, mainly myself, because I knew better than to sit on this thing. But I kind of was taking care of, anyway, mainly mad at myself. But, hey, we were able to dig in. And, Scotty, if you'll notice out there on Twitter, I have pointed some folks to who TCU's new offensive coordinator may be. Now, that is a very interesting one to watch. And we've been talking about that because Spavital was linked to that, because Spavital obviously has done a nice job at Baylor. Sawyer Robertson has been incredible. They put up big numbers, and so it made sense that they might look at him. The TCU people, I was seeing like other names. The guy from UNT was one of them. Garrett Riley, who could have come back from Clemson. Gordon Samus is the name who was he's the UConn interim head coach. And the thought was that he was going to go to Colorado State with Jim Mora. And now, I don't know, there are rumblings that the Horned Frogs might be trying to zero in on him. So anyway, it was kind of fun, man. Scotty, you know this about me. I do like to get into fight every once in a while. And I mean, I used to literally, this was all I did was try to get, you try to break news constantly. You were writing game stories, you were writing features, but you were never wanting to get beat by the other newspaper. And that back then it was the Star Telegram. The people older than me, it was the Morning News versus the Dallas Times Herald. When I got there, Herald was already dead. And so the competition was like the Fort Worth Star Telegram. And we for the most part, owned all those beats, but we had good competition over there in Fort Worth. And I remember throwing haymakers back and forth when I was at the Dallas Morning News, and I was covering the Baylor scandal of 2003 basketball. And Danny Robbins and some of those people at Fort Worth Star Telegram were really getting some good stuff. And then we were firing back at them, and it was back and forth, and it was a pretty unbelievable time to be in the newspaper business. Now you report stuff, and I mean, the next minute, nobody cares who reported it. I mean, we'd like to think they do, but I don't know that they do. Maybe Scotty would care. Maybe Scotty would care that Mosley had a story, but for the most part, you guys are just interested in kind of our analysis of it and kind of what we see happening with all this. Now, Scotty, I have done my Clanderman research, and Scotty's a little bit hazy today. Not his mind, but where he's working from, maybe. And so I may not go to him as much as I usually would, although I will get Scotty's take on this at some point. I got to test out Scotty's the Wi-Fi where he is and make sure Scotty sounds. I don't want him to come on and look too shadowy or anything. I really don't care how he looks. I just care how he sounds. And to me, I was talking to Scotty earlier, and he sounded fine to me. All right, just again, to drill down on this a little more, Baylor has a new defensive coordinator, or they were finalizing it, but I believe now they've actually put out a press release. So anyway, great. Way to go, guys. This guy also coaches safeties. That's what he's done for years at Kansas State. There's a lot of good positive things to say about him. There are years where they weren't that great on defense. There were years where he had some really good players. I'm kind of interested to see what he does with these assistants. He's got one guy named, what is Buddy's? Oh, Buddy Wyatt, who interests me. Defensive ends coach for Kansas State last few years. He was also at Nebraska, Kansas, Colorado, Texas A&M. He worked with Von Miller and Michael Bennett at Texas A&M. If you go back and you think about that, it's like, whoa, all right. Those are big-time pass rushers of the past at Texas A&M, and that would have been during the oh, goodness. Was that, you go all the way back to the years of Johnny? I'm trying to think how old Vaughn and Michael Bennett are, but somewhere around then. And I think you would have to go back to some of that time. He was at A&M 2 different times and worked with some of those great pass rushers there. And then even some other linemen that I remember. Ty Warren was a great player at Texas A&M, and he worked with him. But this guy, Buddy Wyatt, is a name to kind of keep in mind. He was the defensive ends coach for Kansas State, and he's been all around the Big 12, and in fact coached at Alabama at one point. I'm trying to think who he would have been with at Alabama, because it goes back a ways. I think I'm trying to think if he predated Saban or not. I think he was there at some point when Saban was there. But that's an interesting name to kind of keep in mind, because if you think about it, Baylor lost its D-line coach, and so it'll have an opening. Now, the defensive tackles coach at Kansas State was a guy named Mike Osasopo and Tui Osasopo. Okay, easy for me to say. But he's been a good coach and been around and had some really good players, but we'll just see who he brings with him. And some of this will be about who Klein wants to retain on that staff. It does seem like Klein's moving on from a lot of the folks that that were on that K-State staff. And again, that's always the really tough thing when a guy like Kleiman, it's like, okay, congratulations, Chris. And yeah, great career. And we all feel great for you. But how about your assistants are sitting there like, and maybe he would have made some changes anyway, even if Kleiman had stayed. But boy, you put everybody in peril. But again, it's part of the business. Kleiman, they get the staff, they get the class together, they get the signing class together, and then Kleiman goes, and then Kansas State's favorite son, Colin Klein, comes right back into town. Baylor comes in and hires Joe Clanderman. Now, my thought on this is that, I think it's pretty good hire considering, what were you going to get? You weren't going to like go pluck somebody just incredible for like, oh man, we'll go to Baylor where they have, let's not hide the fact that it's a complete lame duck situation. They're not, it's not like, well, gosh, yeah, they hope they turn it around this year. But Scotty, the more I talk to people associated with just kind of even people from the outside watching the Baylor situation each day, Scotty, we say, well, this guy's gone. This guy's gone. Some of those people, Baylor's probably fine to move on. But this is going to be a season where Dave Aranda tries to throw some haymakers. And, all these guys are going to come in and do the best they can to try to flip this in a hurry. When I say flip it, they went from 8-4. They're 5-7 this year. They obviously underperformed. Now, they would say, hey, we were underfunded, and that may be true. But the bottom line is the bottom line. They were 5-7. So, Dave Aranda's probably going to have to go 8-4 or 9-3. And how do you think he's going to do that? Well, they've got some money in NIL, and they're going to have some money in the portal because they lost so many players, so many top frontline players from their class. Now, Scotty, the elephant in the room from yesterday that happened after we were on the air yesterday, the Michigan thing opened up. I know a lot of Baylor people looked at that and go, wait, Jamarian Vincent just went there. He just flipped from Baylor to Michigan, and Michigan's lost his head coach. Well, we shall see. We'll see. Michigan is going to use this Biff Poggi as their interim. He's an interesting – Biff's been around a long time. I think he loved Harbaugh. He's been, I think, a head coach, if I recall correctly, maybe Charlotte or somewhere like that. He's a huge guy. He's kind of a overweight, fun-loving, interesting guy. Anybody named Biff has got to be kind of fun, obviously. He'll take over, but, man, that story is nuts, what happened at Michigan. Sharon Moore is out. Had an affair with staffer, had an inappropriate relationship, I guess is the way we would term that. And the more that's coming out of there, Scotty, I was just before the show today, I was watching John Bacon, a very noted author. He's written about Michigan stuff. I think he may be a Michigan grad, maybe. He may live up that direction. But I've also seen him on a lot of SEC documentaries. He's written a lot of books. He's a pretty famous author. And he was talking about this story. And Sharon Moore not only got fired for cause, but Sharon Moore's in jail. And I think he's still in jail. Scotty, tell me if you see today that he's been bailed out. But he was arrested last night by one set of police. And then they transferred him over to another township. And he's been in jail. And the reason you go, well, how's he not out of jail yet? Well, I think they may be serious charges because it looked like he either broke into somebody's house. The stories that are coming out, this John Bacon, who I see as a very reliable person, he went on a local TV station there in the Michigan area and basically said that the coach went in, broke into somebody's house, and at first it got reported as like an assistant coach's house, but I also saw John Bacon saying it could have had something to do with whoever he was having the affair with, but he threatened to harm himself. He threatened to harm the other person. He had a knife as reports are coming in. This is a really bad situation unfolding in Michigan. Now, again, there's a Baylor component to this because Baylor just lost a recruit to Michigan, and it happened to be one of their top recruits. Now, Joe Clanderman, let's stay on it. Defensive coordinator, Baylor. We're out there on Twitter, premium Twitter. Thank you, CNB. Thanks, Scotty, for getting us out there. Scotty always puts us out there on Twitter. We got a lot of people. I want to remind the people who look at all our stuff on Twitter, hey, jump on the YouTube. We want you to sign up for the YouTube as well. Here in about 5 minutes, we'll need to take a quick break here in a minute. And a guy that I've met and I really like the work he does. He's a funny guy. He's a good dude. He does Kansas State baseball. He sidelines for football. He's a big time K-State guy. He knows all this stuff. And so he knows Clanderman. He'll know all these assistant coaches. He'll know what they're thinking about Colin Klein there if we want to talk to him a little bit about that. Matt Walters will be joining us at 1:30 today. Okay. And I was trying to debate whether I wanted him at 1:30 or 2, but let's do 1:30. We'll get him on. We'll react. And then I want to share more on all this stuff on Joe Clanderman. I'll tell you that, Scotty, that one thing you'll like is that in working with the safeties and working with that defense, he ranked the stats that he cares about the most as a defensive coordinator and as a longtime defensive mind, and turnover creation is at the top. Now, that's not breaking news. Like I think most people would say, the ball, take the ball away. Joey McGuire used to say, take three. And by the way, the Red Raiders are like top in the country in takeaways. If not one, they're in the top 3 or 4. This guy was Kansas State in a year where they did not play particularly well. And a couple of times they gave up huge amount of points, especially to that game against Utah at the end of the year. They gave up a lot of points in that game. But from a takeaway standpoint, number 4 in the country. Turnover margin, 8th in the country. Come on now. Come on. That's good. Okay. I mean, to get a sitting defensive coordinator, and I looked at some of what the K-State people were saying. Some of them are, you know how these things work. Good riddance. See you, Joe. See you, Joe K. And then some of them are like, man, I wish we could retain Joe after the season. I would say, I don't know, maybe 50-50. I don't know. I was looking kind of interesting back and forth. We'll hear from Scotty. Scotty, let's take a quick break, though. And then Matt Walters, one of the big-time broadcasters for K-State, will join us next.